But sometimes even from the religious background, your minister was your everything, your counselor, and all that stuff like that, which to a component, some of what they do is necessary, but it's not everything, because there's things that ministers are not trained in that they may touch a base, but they can't cover it. And
human anger does not bring the righteousness that God desires.
For sure.
So it's not like being angry, but it's like the anger or the wrath and the action that comes with it.
For sure.
So it's like the anger itself is not the bad thing.
Yeah.
Right. And I think being able to recognize that is important, but being able to deal with it maturely is another step like that. So I would love to hear from you, like the difference between like emotional intelligence and emotional maturity.
If I don't hold you accountable in a place where I'm gonna be held accountable, then I'm failing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, my wife's a beast. I call my wife, COO of my house, chief operation, you know what I mean? Cause she just handles stuff, and like she's gifted in areas where I'm not. And some stuff that I do, she's better at. And it's like, I give weight to it. Like anything that God hasn't like dictated that I have to do for my home that my wife can do, I'll do it.
All right, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Welcome back, everybody, to the FBA podcast. I'm your host, Byron Hubbard II, where we discuss foundation, business, and athletics. Today, I have with me every guest is special, but this one is another special guest. He is probably one of the most educated men that I've ever met in my life. But he is a academic coach at Brownsburg High School here in the state of Indiana. He has his Bachelor's of Arts in Social Work from Wichita State, Master of Science in Human Services from Amridge University. But he also has degrees from Cowley and Lipscomb. So you are like one of the most educated people I've ever met. But you are also a minister. You're also a mentor. You're also a coach of many different facets.
Bless you.
And you are the senior minister at the Fountain Square Church of Christ.
Yes, sir.
Robert Young.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Glad
you
to be
for
here,
being
bro.
here. Yeah, no, I appreciate you being here. But you know who you are to me, like really a brother,
Yes,
but
sir.
also a father figure and a friend.
Bless you.
And just how important you've been in my life and in development. We've had moments where we've talked about things in private that have steered me away from making really stupid decisions that could have led me to a different spot that I wouldn't be sitting here. So I wanted to just, first of all, express gratitude for who you've been in my life.
Yes, sir.
Who you are, and hopefully I can be somewhat of the same, at least,
Awesome.
Not for you, but for people that are important to you.
Yeah, I'm proud of you, bro, man. Blessed to be here, man. And so such a gifted honor, man. And proud to see you, man, where you've come, man. You loaded yourself, man. So you gifted, a man of God, awesome person. Man, got the hunger, you know what I mean? A great spirit competitively, man, from the football field to life, bro. And so I'm just proud of you, man. I'm honored and privileged to be here with you. I'm excited, man, just to share this role with you, man, and see how God's working through you, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And to that hunger that not only I have, but you have as well. I want to talk more, because there's so many things we could talk about, but I want to talk more about this initiative and this brand you started called Manifest Legacy, which I'm also a part of.
Yes, sir.
But give us just a short summarization of what it is, what they do, and kind of what your inspiration was for starting it.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, Manifest Legacy is something, man, kind of was birthed out like right before COVID. Just working in the church, man, working with guys and people, man, just seeing the need of generational transfer. Working in the church space, I think we got a generation that really knows what God wants them to do and feels really genuine about it. But I believe the best way to serve something well is to help it transcend. And so in working in that capacity, man, with a multi-generational church, man, it's just like, okay, we got to do a better job of transferring what moved us and moved our grandparents and the minister and stuff to our young people and our grandchildren and stuff. And so, man, based off the backdrop, man, of Genesis chapter 2, and with God's relationship with Adam, it was just like, what were some core things? I looked at it and see what were some core things that God gave man. And it just from them 5 components, he gave him a realm, he gave him a reality, he gave him a responsibility, he gave him rules, and he gave him a relationship. And so from that, I'm like, those are what I want to help, starting with young men, to help grasp and understand with the same community that I want them to be a part of, the guys from there to help teach and grow that. And then I want them to own that and help them to develop in those areas. And so it's been a blessing to do that, man, and even been able to evolve to One Manifest.
Yeah.
And so with your help, man, and with Karen, your sister's help, man, it's been a blessing, man. And so I think I don't even think we've hit the tip of the iceberg, but I think it's something great, man, that it's been able to be seen in a small capacity that has great opportunity, down the road. So,
Yeah, no, I think part of why I started this is very similar, of the ability and the blessing to turn around and give back.
Yeah.
But not just give back. It's like, hey, help steer them in the right direction. Because like you can turn around and give back a lot of things.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of things that could cause kids to go different directions that are going to put them in really, really bad positions. Like the conversation I just had was parenting off of trauma.
Yeah.
And because you give your kids, I love the way Brother Hubbard puts this, they don't get what's taught, they get what's caught.
Facts.
So whatever you turn around and are giving them either consciously or unconsciously, they are receiving in some way, shape, or form.
That's right.
So the intentionality behind creating a brand or a platform like this one, where you are actively turning around and putting out information and putting out resources and putting out conversations that are beneficial to their growth and development, I think is, very much also part of the reason that I started this. And I've been a part of Manifest Legacy. So
doing an excellent job too, man. I appreciate you.
I appreciate that. I just be in there talking. Like I don't really
dropping gems.
To that point, what do you think are some, because I want to say our conversations this year have been around emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
So what has been your initiative on some of the primary fundamental things for kids to know and learn that they can at least have as a foundation to carry on and be successful, especially as young men? Yeah,
for sure. And I think it's elementary stuff, but I think it's stuff that we don't necessarily learn. So like you said, trauma is such a big thing. And I like the age that we're in where it's becoming more popular to see people go to counseling, people go to podcasts, their self-help stuff, which, sometimes we poo-poo over that it may have been like a certain upper echelons that only deals with this spectrum. Like you make a certain amount of money, you can get a counselor, that is maybe a luxury in opposed to a necessity. But sometimes even from the religious background, your minister was your everything, your counselor and all that stuff like that, which to a component, some of what they do is necessary, but it's not everything, because there's things that ministers are not trained in that they may touch a base, but they can't cover it. Where somebody that has just as much education, but in that field can really help your mind. And so for young people, I think that's it. Emotional intelligence is really big because I like to tie that in with relationship intelligence. The idea that anything and everything we do is tied into relationship as well as self-regulation. Like no matter what profession you in, no matter what you do, people are gonna be there. This is earth, you know what I mean? People are everywhere. And so if you learn how to manage, for sure. And so if I learn how to handle myself and then also how to, in a sense, handle others, man, there's nothing I can't do. Because like there was a study that I was looking at that it was saying for people that have the same academic excellence, have the same skill, same credentials that are in the room, what sets people apart is emotional intelligence, the ability to self-regulate, the ability to problem solve, the ability to conflict resolution. Like all those things is like stuff that we may not really go to school for, but no matter if you're in business, you in sports and athletics, you're in politics. Like those are the people that are able to make moves. Because I think some of our greatest heroes are like people that have been through something and persevered, and it's like that either motivated their movement or we seen a pivotal part of their movement in their career that was like, dog, they killed that. They was triumphant. Like that made me want to go buy the record more or buy their gear or be high. It's because they inspired into something. But for young people, I think if we can do that earlier, help them to navigate those things from at home, in the classroom, in the locker room, wherever it may be, out in the streets. Like if you can learn emotional intelligence and regulate yourself, there's nothing you can't do. Like if you can get over the hump of the pressures of whatever you're pursuing, man, the sky's the limit. But even now, like I just watched the NBA draft and everybody talking about the Bailey kid not wanting to go to Utah, and I don't know anything about him personally, but like with some coaching, like he could have better navigated that situation. And like I was listening this morning to the podcast and it was like, well, he needs to get different management and a representative would have better helped him navigate that if it was, because they said the guy he got is not even regulated through the NBA. And
what difference would that have made?
So the big thing with having like I think in that sense, unless you got somebody that's on point, because there are guys that are exceptions to the rules that are really, really good. But I think for a new guy coming in, someone that at least knows the landscape can help you better navigate that. Because he knows basketball.
Better navigate his response or like what team he goes to?
I'll say that room. So in that, for instance, like with Sanders, how he came out like, and they're not the first ones to say I don't want to play for a certain team or be drafted by that. And sometimes you get that like priority. It's a very slim
said that
few.
Outright?
Yeah, like they were saying.
I've not been paying attention to the NBA draft at all.
Yeah, so with the Bailey kid, he skipped a workout with a couple teams, and so the thing was like he said they didn't outright address which team it was, but they said he didn't want to play for certain teams in the top 5, which would include the Jazz, who he got drafted by. But the thing is that, you know, he skipped a workout. He said that, and then when he got drafted, they were like they show him like he's very melancholy when he gets drafted, and like to me, I'm like, you know, be grateful. You know, most definitely.
You're going to the NBA,
bro. Come on now, like you going to play with 400 guys that like in over history, it's not even over 3,000 people, I believe, that's like been in that position. That's a blessing. Yeah. Like, you know, it may not be ideal, which I think is a good fit. Honestly, new management, people are gonna support him and they're gonna keep that pill in his hand. But it was like, even if that's not your ideal place, look at the blessings over the, you know, because you could honestly get better what you want there than the ideal team you might want. Yeah. And I think they'll prioritize. They actually need him. And so the thing was that they were on him, they were showing the camera, and like he just like, you know, like he didn't get picked at the record, you know what I mean, the YMCA or something. Like he just like, and it's like, bro, and they showed him another guy was like bawling his eyes out. He's talking like, we lived on a generator for 7 years. I'm happy. My mama, like, we got drafted, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, definitely not miss the moment. And sometimes I think people don't realize if you have key people in your life, they can help you navigate that space, even if you don't see it that clearly. And I think that's part of emotional intelligence, like that I can see there's something bigger than this moment. Like it may not happen how I want it, but I got to be grateful. Like there is some stuff going my way. Like it may not be the best team. It may not be the best coach. It may not be the best ownership, but yo, I'm in a space where I get to do what I love every day for a job and get paid good.
Very good.
So I got to celebrate that. And it's like, okay, when I get there, you know, we might need to have some talks and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But if they value me to pick me as a lottery pick, they see something in me. And the thing is I'm going to change a little bit on Manifest Legacy. I'm about to change the history and the legacy of my family. I got generational wealth now. So it's like, even if I don't like, ideally, you know, the Jazz ain't the most hottest team out there, you know what I mean? Which he could change that, you know what I mean? He can make it cool to have a Utah Jazz jersey. Like, people ain't been rocking Jazz jerseys since Karl Malone. So it's like, yo, he can do something there, man. And like, you know, in Utah, you know, you could be a star there, but it's like, what is important to you? And so in that, if people period can navigate that space on how I can manage my mind, my emotions, and not be inauthentic, but at the same time be mature in circumstances and navigate it, like you can save your reputation. Because now they're not gonna be talking about his game until you go on the court right now. And summer league start next week. They're gonna be talking about his attitude.
Balling, like it's every time that he does something negative, or
that's the narrative,
doesn't live up to his expectation, or doesn't score as many points, it's going to be like he doesn't want to play for this team anyway. Like he's probably selling everything.
It's the Iverson practice scenario again. Like people don't know the scenario of that, but Iverson was really dealing with a friend dying. You know, they asked him about practice and stuff like that, and everybody knows Iverson and Washington that he's the hardest working guy. And he missed a practice, and they questioned him about practice, and he just was ticked off. Like, yo, we talking about practice, and it's like people make a mockery of it, but no. Man, that dude's like 6 foot, but he banged with the best of them. If you're a basketball player like Iverson, there's nobody I think in the league that was tougher than Iverson, like over or under 6 foot. But it's like, you know, you got to honor his heart and his integrity, because like that's what he's about. And so in that moment, people snapshot that, and they still make commercials about that, like and laugh about it. But it was bigger than that moment. But that he is a badge of hard work and dedication, but there were other things in his career that people snapshot and he became known for that were, I think, smaller than what he's really in value, because he has so much more to offer in who he is, his hard work in his career. Yeah, no, and to that point about emotional intelligence, I feel like I've had this conversation a couple of times recently, because I think that people think emotional intelligence and emotional maturity are the same thing. And I think that there is a clear separation. Because when you talk about the benefit of emotional intelligence is you are able to understand what you're feeling and think through it. I think maturity then goes action. Because like you can be emotionally intelligent and understand that you're mad, but you can still tear the room apart and be like, I'm mad and because this, that, and the third. It's like you can understand, but like emotional maturity, at least in my opinion, is the ability to like sift through and still act through those emotions, or take the back seat, or not the back seat, but take a step back of like, okay, I'm feeling this right now and I'm experiencing this. Now I can go and do this, whether it's you're sitting back or you can go forward. Because I think, you know, we're both men of faith, right? For sure. I studied James chapter 1 for an entire year. Sure. And in James chapter 1, it says, you know, human anger does not bring the righteousness that God desires. For sure. So it's not like being angry, but it's like the anger or the wrath
and the action that comes with it.
For sure.
So it's like the anger itself is not the bad thing.
Yeah.
Right. And I think being able to recognize that is important, but being able to deal with it maturely is another step like that. So I would love to hear from you, like the difference between like emotional intelligence and emotional maturity.
For sure. Yeah. And that's key because like you said, context, because being angry is not an issue in itself. Bible says itself, be angry and sin not. So it's like it validates anger as a true emotion of a human, but the boundaries are don't sin. Your anger doesn't have, you have the right to be angry, but you don't have the right to let your anger get out of control and be crazy. And so it's necessary for us to know that, because you can be aware of something and not practice it. Like, just because I know what it takes to become a good shooter doesn't mean I'm gonna do it and become a good shooter. So it is the emotional or the IQ. So emotional IQ intelligence is the idea that we are embracing the information and the actualization of it. But then maturity is me putting into practice what I know. And that's a big key. Like, you know, there's a lot of folks that know what's right but won't do it. It ain't hit yet. Like, okay, it's not important enough for me to do it, so I won't do it. But people do what they believe is important. So like, it's not enough just to know. But the maturity is when I take what I know and I apply it. I believe that's wisdom, the right application of knowledge. And so when we embrace that, that's where, you know, kids can become stronger and smarter. But like, that's where our adolescence comes into adulthood, is when like all the stuff our parents made us do with good purpose, now we embrace it and do it ourselves. And so I think that's a really good sign of maturity, is like, it's not when my kids can tell me what they're supposed to do, it's when they can show me. So like that's where we want to help people to do that. And so that's what we've been trying to push. And even in my personal life, it's like there's some stuff I need to been doing and applying to my life and get better, but now I got to do it. Because I believe that's where accountability starts. When you know better and do better, that's, you know better, then you got to do better. And so that's a big thing. So like, it's a lot of folks that like know what's right, and I got friends, I got homies that's like that. Like, I know I got to do better, but the rubber meets the road when they actually make that pivot. And it's like, why wouldn't you do this? If you know this is the better way, the healthier way, why are you still getting in your own way?
Yeah. And with you now working, well, not now, but you've been working in the school system for a while. And either in the school system or you've been coaching kids actively through athletics. What do you think is plaguing young men in particular nowadays when it comes to emotional intelligence?
Man, honestly, I think it's just upbringing, like in the sense, like the environment. So for me, I got experience as growing up in a single parent home, my mom raising 3 kids. So like a father figure wasn't one that I got in the house. Like my mom and dad were divorced before I was out of elementary school. So it was like in them pivotal years where I needed my dad to be there and stuff like that, he wasn't. But I had surrogate dads. Like my mom had me. I got a big brother. I still had today from big brothers, big sisters. It was people in the church.
You still have
it was coach. Yeah, that's my brother. Shout out my brother Wes, man. Like I've known him since I was like my 11-year-old's age, like elementary age, and like we stuck together. He honestly, he was the model what I wanted to do academically. He was the first brother I knew that had a degree. Like I knew him when he was walking through his engineering degree here in Indianapolis, and so like I was like, man, I seen somebody that can do it, and he was also the same guy. We go eat pizza, you know what I mean? We watched the games and stuff, but it was like, oh, this is tangible. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I got to do this. He's a successful black man, so I think that's what it takes. A part of that is going to be that. So let me go get it. And like I seen him do it with a wife. I'm like, okay, this is powerful. So, but you know, for our young people, I seen it because inner city, like I look at some stuff, man, because in being a teacher, I served in middle school. It was like, I heard it, but until you're there, you didn't really see it. That like it was more, and I taught science, but the thing is like we didn't even get to the science because I got to teach the young people. Some of them coming in like, hey, you don't come in doing cartwheels in the classroom. You know what I mean? Like quit yelling at the teachers. You know what I mean? In the hallway, it's just little stuff that like, you know, I'm helping them learn life. And so then it's like when we can get some order, then we can obtain all these gems I'm trying to give you, which they tell you in teaching. The first thing, and I do my statement, I'm like, I got a PhD in YouTube, bro. Like anytime I need to learn something,
I'm university certified.
Yes,
for sure.
Yes. I'll get a book and then I'll look at YouTube, you know what I mean? And the biggest thing, even from people I know, they was like, when you teach, it's not teaching first, it's classroom management. You got to teach the kids how to behave and conduct themselves in the classroom. It don't matter what you're teaching them. If they don't understand how to operate in that space, then they'll miss out. And you'll spend the rest of the year babysitting and like dealing with chaos because you haven't established the order. Like my neighbor, Mr. Frank, told me, he's like, man, no, there's a rule he had, like no smile to December. So he's like, from August to December, they need to know you don't play. He's like, you become nice after Christmas. And I'm like, you know me, yeah, like I'm relational, bro. I got crack jokes. I'm like, I don't know if I can do that, but I tried it, you know what I mean? But I was like, but it's real. Like, you ain't got to be like a cold hearted, but you got to be on point that like the rules of the classroom are serious. Like, there's no game. Like, I got to be diligent. Because otherwise kids that, you know, whose hearts are bound up in foolishness is natural. They got to have boundaries. And that's a sign of love. Like boundaries are a sign of love. And so it teaches them to be mature. So before we step in the classroom, or that we know when we get in there, this is how I conduct myself. Yeah. And that's the difference from a lot of folks. Like, you see people out in public and be like, man, you can tell they ain't got no home training. That's the old school saying. They ain't got no home training. You know what I mean? They doing all this and that. And it's like, maybe somebody hadn't had that conversation with them. But for us, when we grew up, like I grew up, my mom and my grandparents around was like, yo, you conduct yourself. You know what I mean? You got to represent who you are, who we are when you go out there. So there's a certain way you do something. You hold the doors for ladies. You know what I mean? You say yes sir, no sir. It was just like a protocol, because it's like, no matter what you're doing, no matter where you go, who you are and how you handle yourself is so important. And so for young people, emotional intelligence is that, but they're dealing with a beast that we ain't never dealt with. Like my generation is the first generation that had a phone in their hand, and the generation after mine's was the ones born with a phone in their hand. Like when I was in high school, you know, we still paid for minutes. You paid for text messages. Yeah, Nextel chirp. Like, oh man, like I had to budget that, bro. Like I'm like, okay, you know, if I'm a text old girl, listen, we got 5 texts before my budget run out. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but my kids were born, it was like, I don't know life without a phone. So like, you know, we ain't talking about spankings no more. I take their phone, I done ruin their whole world. You know what I mean? But it's like, we've not taught them how to navigate that, because on a phone, man, your whole day can be ruined off of what somebody says that don't even know you. Yeah. So it's like, we can have the keys to know emotional intelligence, but we do have to make it tangible to the present day. That like, hey, you know, it's good to turn your phone off. Hey, that person that wrote that, they have no power over you. It's an opinion, you know what I mean? And you really got to learn like what stuff to decipher and to value, and to, you know, navigate that space so that you can be healthy and whole. Because some people can have a really good, like, real life, but their mind's messed up because of what's happening on the technology. Yeah, like something happened here, or they're watching a certain star or a hero in their eyes go through something, and they adopt that feeling, bro, and they just ruin it. It crushes everything around them, and they'll assert that, hey, you know, I'm having a bad day or bad life because that's not going well. And it's like, you can turn that off, and you can enjoy that your mom and dad is at home. You can enjoy you got a church family. You can enjoy you got food on the table. You don't have to carry people's sorrows, you know, that don't really affect you, you know what I mean, or immediately responsible for. So it's a learning process, but it's like, those of us that are aware of it have to be open and available to coach those that are learning it, and be patient with them and love them into that space. Because I believe if you can handle that, if you can learn how to process your emotions and your feelings, you know, and be on that pathway to navigate life and understand, you know, what's core and what's key, man, I think it sets a firm foundation to navigate life more successfully going forward. Yeah.
And you touched on it a little bit earlier, but like the importance of establishing boundaries with kids when they're young. Why is it that kids need so many like why is it important that they understand order, structure, and somewhat of like hierarchy of like, hey, you need to listen to me because I'm here, and maybe not like you're here, but like, why is it so important that kids understand that at an early age?
Yeah, and that's a biblical principle. Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, and so it says the rod of correction drafted away in Proverbs. It's in Proverbs. I give you the specific one, but it's powerful because it's like we're all there. Even scientifically, the a part of the brain that for decision making isn't fully formed and completed until age 25. 25. So like we think a 25-year-old should have something going on, but it's like their brain's not even done being formed yet. So it's like, yeah, you know, we gotta have a little more patience. So it's like if you're at the house by 18, you might drown. You know what I mean? So it's like, because you're not even scientifically or biologically ready to be solid. You know what I mean? So, but in that, it's key for kids because it teaches them how to operate. Yeah. Like even like from the religious format, and even in business. business. Like there's a hierarchy. If you come in a place and you don't know who's in charge, like that's a bad sign. Because you don't know who to go to, who to be accountable with, who to who to recognize responsibilities, who's going to like check on this and that. And so when kids have that, they have to learn that so they can navigate life. Period. One, as a father, as a husband, or a house band, to keep things together. Like it's important that the kids know that everything starts and stops with dad. That it's not that dad is strong arming everything, but dad's the person of responsibility and accountability to God. So if I don't hold you accountable in a place where I'm gonna be held accountable, then I'm failing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like my wife's a beast. I call my wife, COO of my house, chief operation, you know what I mean? Cause she just handles stuff, and like she's gifted in areas where I'm not. And some stuff that I do, she's better at. And it's like, I give weight to it. Like anything that God hasn't like dictated that I have to do for my home that my wife can do, I'll do it. But I do also take her insight into stuff that I am held responsible for. Like, I deem it as being a priest of my home, being a provider and protector. I think that's what I got to do. I got to make sure my family knows there's a mission that we've been ordained and responsible to do. I got to uphold them to that, encourage them, give them the tools to do that. I got to make sure I keep, the essentials in their hands, covered, protected, provided for. And then I got to make sure that their life is secure and safe. Keep them protected from the world, but also keep them protected from me. Yeah. Like I have to be healthy for them. And so in doing that, kids learn how to live life. You know what I mean? So the family is the first entity that a child is engaged with before they get into school, before they get to business, to get a job, any career, athletics. The family's the first thing. So in your family, it is necessary. It is essential that the family be on point, because you set the framework for a kid. There's stuff the kid, a human being doesn't learn more and process more in the ages 0 to 5 than they will in the rest of their life.
Wow.
Like the kids are sponges. Think about all the stuff that you learn from 0 to 5. You learn how to walk, talk. You learn who mom, dad, family is. You learn what's okay to do, how to eat. How to function. You learn friends. You learn about relationship. You know what I mean? It's so many stuff that we still do today, but you learn that from 0 to 5. And so if we really like boosted up the sensitivity to that, they're like, hey, if I teach faith, if I teach health and wealth, if I teach emotional intelligence to their capacity and ability in that thing, I'm setting them off for a really good chance to succeed. But a lot of stuff happens in that phase that really hurts kids. Like you mentioned earlier, it's not always what you're taught, but what you caught, from your environment. And some people were born in very chaotic environments, right? And they wrestle with that today. They may be in a place of peace, but in their mind they're chaotic because that's what they grew up in. You know what I mean? It's like relationally, sadly, some people don't think that somebody cares about them until they yell at them or that they beat them or something like that. And it's like, that's how they were adjusted to, and there was homeostasis. They were grained into a certain environment that became normal, but it shouldn't be. It's unhealthy. And so in that, when kids learn health and well-being at an early age, it sets the stage for them to look for that in other people, to know that that's a norm, and it should be an expectation, not a contingency. Like, if I'm going to be in friendship with you or a relationship with you, these are X, Y, and Z that I have to have if we going to be friends. You know what I mean? And so if you set that landscape and that foundation, I think it's important. And so it starts in the home relationship, from top down, from, mom and dad, parents to children, that, they understand how things work, because it'll set the landscape for everything they do.
Yeah. And you've kind of already touched on it a little bit, but the importance of kids understanding structure, kids understanding that in those first few years, and really this is the parent, like those first 5 years are critical for you as a parent, and the manner in which your kids are going to learn basic fundamentals, but also they're going to learn how to treat people. And they're going to learn what a person is and what love and respect they do deserve. They might not be able to define it, but they're going to know in some way, shape, or form what that looks like based on what you told them. And you also touched on a little bit like the role that you play as a man in your household. And I wanted to ask, because I think this is a huge, not just for me, but a topic of discussion of the role that faith plays in the development of how you raise your kids, but also like how much you like lay it on them, because I think that a lot of people my age too, and I'm guessing yours as well, like have a lot of church hurt. So like every Sunday, their parents drag them in the church. They said something, they got beat in church. So like there's a lot of bad, a lot of bad memories attached to the church and therefore attached to God. So what do you think is the role that you, especially you as a father, that you play in showing up as a man of God and understanding, or having your kids understand, like, this is the standard, but not like, shoving it, down their throat. You know what I mean? So,
For
like,
sure.
how have you navigated that as a father?
And I'm not laughing at anybody's church pain. So I just laugh because I got some stories, some pinchings and some spankings I got as a kid in church. But
I
to
never
God
got
be the glory.
Never got beat in church all the way till we got home.
That's right. Yeah. If you got whooped at church, you was really off the chain. So yeah, it was wait till I get home. But
I think that was worse for me because I got to sit in the car.
Yeah, your conscience eating at you.
As soon as we get out, it's like,
that was worse than the whooping. It's like, oh, I saw on the way. Oh man, I can't focus.
Yeah.
Oh man, but it's key. Like I think, man, to set a standard, because man, like having two sets, I say generations of kids for me. So I'm in a blended family. So my oldest two are mine through covenant marriage and like gifts from God, but they're emerging adults right now, 20 and 22. And then I have 11 and a 10-year-old. Mm-hmm. So I was able to learn some stuff with the older ones that I better do now with the younger ones. But it was so key. Like I kind of knew what I wanted. I want to set the landscape for them to know that this is what we do as a family, who we are, but also give them the freedom and the liberty to be who God created them to be. Mm-hmm. And so in that, it's a happy medium. Like, we have standards, you know what I mean? Like, we are a family that worships. We love each other. We honor each other. And we love God. We're trying to be healthy and whole. We won't do things that intentionally that hurts one another or hurts people. Mm-hmm. And we want to invest in like the betterment of others. And so we have a high value on people, period. And so in that, those are some core things that we try to follow. And at the same extent, I want to make sure that my kids, like, they won't be interested in everything that dad's interested in. So it's like we may set this landscape that we're a faith-founded family, but it's like my kids might be good at music. You know what I mean? They might have a thing for numbers, mathematicians and stuff. And it's like, that's not stuff that dad like kills the game in. But if God's called you and gifted you with that, like, I'm gonna push it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, we love basketball, but the thing is, like, all my, 3 out of 4 play basketball and love it. But my daughter's a dancer. You know what I mean? She like music, arts. She about to be a nurse now. She's in medicine and stuff.
Nice.
But it's like, I can't tell her nothing about that, but I can be your biggest cheerleader. I can put some on them books, you know what I mean? I can encourage you, like, and I'll push you to encourage you and cheerlead you to life, you know what I mean? But it's like, I would be missing my responsibility in cultivating who God made you if I didn't support you where God was sending you. Yeah. Like, if that's your gift, even if all my boys say I don't want to play basketball, Dad, or I don't want to be a preacher, like, so be it. Like, you honor God in whatever He's gifted you to do, and like, that's a reality that I think everybody got to really understand. In parenting, know what's a God job and what's your job.
Yeah.
And so in that's something I learned along the way, and some things I've stepped back from, things that I've approached differently, and then some stuff I just let go in the sense of like, okay, that's not really what I see from my vantage point as necessary things for me to do, or that may be something I need to let them process through, in opposed to trying to force them to do it. Yeah. So like one rule of my house is we do worship. So like, if you stay in the house, you got to worship, you know what I mean? Because you got that God factor, you know what I mean? Good, bad, up and down, we gonna worship, you know what I mean? And then, we talk about it and we make faith our own. So we had them conversations, but just try to keep a healthy atmosphere. And so for my kids, they know that's where Dad stands. And, sometimes it was some drag out, you know what I mean? Like discussion, like, I don't feel like it and stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, you know what it is? Like, this is what it is, And so, but in that, I've seen God evolve in my kids in ways that like I couldn't predict, you know what I mean? Because some seasons, like even with my older ones, is like, man, where were you been the last decade in this house? Like, I can't believe you. Like, you don't do that. Like, we've been through this. But I've seen also where they made their faith their own. That it was like, I had to let go of like, I'm not forcing you to do this. You know what I mean? I'm encouraging you to do this. I want to remind you, what stabilized us throughout these years, where our hope is, and, what our basis is as a family. And like, because they have that knowledge and then grounding and environments of people and connections that reinforce that, they're doing great things. Like my daughter, like, so proud of her. Like she helped start a ministry at Marion University. You know what I mean? Really? One of its own kind. Like it's like the first like black faith group created in Marion's history. And so her and her partner, and then like she's going on retreats and stuff like that. And it was like, I couldn't see that, you know what I mean? Like navigating high school is a tough time, you know what I mean? And she did, you know, God bless her, like what dad wanted, you know, some pushback in other places, but I learned to value that because it's things like if you don't speak up in areas, sometimes that can be because you don't care or you just become passive. And I don't want that. Anything my kids do, I want them to be engaged, knowledgeable, and passionate about. So it's like if where you are in your faith journey and life journey makes you question stuff, that's a good place to be. That means you care about yourself and you care about knowing truth, or you want to be, and you want some type of awareness, and that's what we should be. We should never be living life just as floating. You know what I mean? We just as like crash test dummies. Like feel life, experience life, knock down doors, you know, knock on doors, you know, open windows, like explore life because we only get one.
Yeah.
So it's like, why be passive on it? You know what I mean? If I'm going to do something, I want to know why I'm going to do it. If you feel so, you know, indignated, Dad, for me to worship, why should I do it? And I can't be like, oh, you don't talk to your daddy like that. You know what I mean? It's like, nah, they want to know. And I've learned from raising two generations, is like, that's a key thing. And so when my younger ones, you know, come and ask questions, it's not like, oh, you know, you better respect that. It's like, nah, let's talk about it. Like, even if their emotions haven't been regulated, it's my job to decipher, like, no, they're really asking because they want to know, and because they may not have the value in it, and maybe there's something I need to share with them that I haven't, but I got to give them that space to do so.
Yeah.
And so that's important. And I think generation to generation, whether it be parenting, whether it be ministry, whether it be in the field or working or sports or whatever, it's like you got to have room for the next generation to ask questions, because you got to realize they have way more access than the other prior generations. Yeah. So if you don't give them an answer, they're going to go look for one.
They got more questions to ask.
Yeah. And so it's like, okay, if I'm passionate enough to give you a reason why to do something and to defend it, I should be passionate enough to do my research and be, you know, grounded in what answer I give you. Like it's no longer the generation where it say, you know, it's what I said, you know, do what I say, not what I do. It's like, nah, we got track records now, you daddy. Like we seen you in the club, you know what I mean? Like, nah, you tell me about this and that. Like, you know, why should I do this if you ain't owned it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You didn't ask these questions, you doing it, but you doing it blindly. And so it's worth exploring for us personally, but also for those that we're raising and we're rearing. It's like, nah, I want to be transparent, be honest, open with you. I want to be integral to why we do this, because it means something to me and you mean something to me. And so I want to merge the two so you can see the value.
Yeah. And I think I want to speak about this more conceptually, but you touched on it a little bit of you have standards, but you still grant them freedom. And, you know, we live in a free country, but everyone thinks that means you should be able to do whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it, however you want to do it with whoever you want to do it with. No. So like how, and I want to think more broadly on this, not just in the household, but I would love to hear your opinion on how do you have freedom, but still establish like standard, like standard law, order, like these are the boundaries for which you can operate in. Yeah. But then how does that, if it does, how does that conflict with freedom?
Yeah. So for me, like I'm a believer. So the basis of what I do is on the trajectory of what God says is good, what God says is bad. And so for me, that's my basis. And so my morals and my thoughts, my activities, my actions are based off of that. And so, but there are some stuff that guys, thou shalt do and thou shalt not, you know what I mean? But then there's like a lot of room where flexibility into that, like how you explore that and express that. Like, and for instance, like, you know, for us, if we're going to take that route, is talking about like worship. Like there are key components in there that you see in a model of worship, but how you express that is different. Like the church in the first century doing sing the same songs that we singing in the 21st century. And I wouldn't expect them to. Like the music's changed. The American church is not going to look like, you know, the Middle Eastern church. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's just a culture thing.
Now, I guess like the question I would have is like, if we are meant to trust in the God that doesn't change in a world that does, are we then not obligated, but are we then more in line with him by sticking with the ways that were original, or by changing with the culture?
So I would answer that like this, because there are things like, so when we talk about changing, we talk about like everything. There are some things that are principle and then there's some things that are cultural. And I think that's where we got to understand. By principle, God never changes, but God changes a lot of stuff. Like, what he goes from Abraham, we go to a patriarchal age where the dad, the father, the man was over everything. Then you go to a Mosaic age where the people of God follow by law and directives. And then you come through the grace age or Christ. And it's like, no, now we have God with us. Now we follow him. That's change. Yeah. But God, of course, God's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He's got a broad span of how he carries out and expressing himself. But he does change some things. Old school church will say, same message, different methods. And so the love of God is the same in Genesis as it is now today. The love of God was the same when, he brought Abraham, and on his mission is the same as it was when Jesus died on the cross. Now, how we understand God is like, okay, well, hold on. That didn't make sense to me, God. Like, how could you let your son die like this? How could you? But you also the same God that fed people from heaven, bread, like how can that be the same God? And it's like, do you know what God's will is? So if you understand God's will is that that all be saved and that we have this relationship. He wants creation to have this relationship with his creator, that God's been working on that from the beginning of time. So in that's expressed differently. Sometimes that means it's celebration. Sometimes it means sacrifice. Sometimes that means it's captivity for people that are missing the mark. Sometimes it's jubilation, it's opportunity, jubilee. And so when you understand the will of God, then that helps you better define kind of what's happening in the narrative. And so for us, I think understanding that principles have to be set. Like, you got to have a basis. Like, every house has a foundation. And funny thing is that most houses have the same type of foundation. The blueprint for a foundation is the same, but every house above the ground don't look the same. And so there are some concrete things that have to be in every facet of life for you that, that you are, is your setting ground. Right. And then from that, you have the ability to express what God has declared to you. Like, whatever your gifting is, your ability. Some people can sing. Some people are artistic. Some people can dance. Some people are readers. They're writers. They're creators. And like, that's a God thing too. Yeah. But God doesn't compromise himself because he made you a math man, an engineer guy, and he made me an artist. Like, that's not a different God. It's the same God, but it's a different expression. And so for that, with my kids, it's like, we have morals, or we have a basis of how we operate ourselves. Now, whatever space that you're in, you don't compromise your morals because that's who you are. You know what I mean? And so whether you're in the boardroom, you're in the classroom, on the court, and whatever it is, like, that means that I do what I do with a rule of thumb. That I have a core ground, so that makes me who I am. Like, my standards, you got to have standards. And so anything in life, you have standards, then that allows you the opportunity to flourish where you are. Because if you go in different settings, then other people dictate that for you. Right. Like, it's like you go in one room, or everybody's doing that. Well, I did it because they did it, but you may not come from where they come from, or you don't value what they value. You'll compromise yourself. So then when you go back to your camp and your corner, is like, well, I did this and did that. Well, why'd you do that? Well, they was doing it, but you don't know where they came from, and their values are different. So you got to set that groundwork because it gives you stability. You know what I mean? And so it gives you purpose. And so when you have those things, when you do go out and you do make those decisions that are unique to who you are, everybody is not everybody's not a law unto themselves. It'd be chaos. America don't even operate like that.
Everyone's not a what?
A law unto themselves. So like, no country
don't, like, make up their own laws.
Yeah, because it'd be chaos. You know what I mean? Like, every country has laws and boundaries. Why? Because if they don't have at least some standard, then it's going to be chaos. And so to have order, you've got to have some common rule that we operate on. Because if I make it okay for us to just, shoot anybody you want, then it's going to be wild, wild west. You know what I mean? But I need at least this extent of order. And so I think once you set order, then that gives you the freedom to do what, to flow and to operate into that.
So you think order brings freedom?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I think that's what it is. Like in your life, when you have your necessities met, think about it like this. When you have your necessities met, like you wake up in a safe place, you have food to eat, you didn't wake up in a catastrophe of fighting and stuff like that. Whatever you do when you leave that house, you feel a little better. like you at peace. Like, you know, some folks, you know, they chipper like, what you happy? It's 5 o'clock in the morning. How you happy? But they went to bed good, they ate good, they slept good, their essential needs were met. And from that basis, that consistency, they're able to kill it on the field. They're able to kill it on the court. They're able to kill it in worship. Yeah, it's because they have those necessary anchors that give them stability. And everybody needs those, you know what I mean? And so whether we talk about scientifically or psychologically, some of the core things that people need to survive, it's ingrained in us that if we have those certain stabilities, it allows us to flourish in life, period. And so if that answers the question, like, I think that's where the flow of where your authenticity can come is when your basic needs are met. We deal with Maslow and things like that. If you have basic, core needs met, then you can be who you've been designed to be, in the sense of, from my foundation and my grounding, I can authentically be myself from that. Not apart from it, but from that.
Yeah. So freedom is a result.
Yeah, for sure.
Gotcha. Okay. So if freedom is a result, then how would you define it then? How would you define freedom?
For sure. Good question. I would say freedom is liberation in movement.
To liberation in movement or in movement?
In movement. Yeah. So it's the ability to authentically be yourself in a healthy and productive way.
Brother Young, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate your conversation. This is not the last one we'll have.
For sure.
But no, thank you for coming on. Thanks for everybody that tuned in.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, bro.
But yeah, no, of course, you're going to be back next time. But
no doubt.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Bless you, bro.
Give me some dap.